Hello, I am Charles Lowrey. I am the research and legal representative for Borealis's Place. My findings as the research and legal representative are as follows. The Fairbanks homeless population, the state of Alaska's homeless population, potential lawsuits we may face, and laws and regulations. A census was conducted on the Fairbanks homeless population on January 23, 2018. The outdoor temperature during this time was -30, and this is also during the middle of winter. The census had found that there 218 people were homeless. Of those 218, 48 were unsheltered, 122 were in emergency shelter, and 48 were in transitional shelter. In that same year, a census was conducted on the state of Alaska's homeless population. 2,008 were found to be homeless. Of those 2,008, 309 were unsheltered, 1,240 were in emergency shelter, and 459 were in transitional shelter. Potential lawsuits that we may face while operating Borealis's Place are a lack of shelters and accessibility. 5 cities in Orange County were being sued for refusing to build shelters within their jurisdiction. The homeless in these areas were not complying with anti-camping and anti-loitering laws, but this was due to the low amount of shelters. Advocates for the homeless want the shelters to be near accessible transportation sites, jobs, hospitals, and emergency responders. Louis Martin, a woman in Chicago, is suing the city as some of the homeless shelters were unable to accommodate those with disabilities. Multiple shelters had turned her away as she had difficulty walking due to rheumatoid arthritis. Martin was finally able to find a shelter 3 nights later. The lawsuit is seeking to have improved accessibility for those with disabilities and compensatory damages for Martin. Laws and regulations that our shelter must follow is Section 576.403 of Title 24, Housing and Urban Development. Section 576.403 is Shelter and Housing Standards. Within these standards, we must follow minimum standards set forth by state or local laws. There is structurally sound where the building must protect residents and not pose a threat to those inside. The building must be easily accessible. There must be adequate space and security, such as sufficient space to sleep and space for occupants. There must be clean indoor air, and there has to be a means of ventilation. The shelter must have clean water that is free of contaminants. There must be clean restrooms that are private and in operating condition. The shelter must have heating and cooling. The shelter is also to have lighting, whether natural or artificial, and have electricity. Areas for food production must have sufficient space and the necessary equipment to cook those food. And lastly, there has to be at least 1 working smoke detector within the shelter. There also has to be a secondary exit in case of an emergency. Borealis's Place will meet and exceed these standards. Here are my sources. Thank you.